Chapter 1. A young girl named Martha. In the quiet countryside of Virginia, on June 2nd, 1731, a baby girl was born to John Dandridge and Frances Jones. They named her Martha Dandridge, and little did they know, she would one day become one of the most respected women in American history. Martha grew up on a plantation in New Kent County, Virginia, where she learned the responsibilities of running a household. Unlike many girls of her time, she received an education, learning to read, write, and manage accounts, skills that would later prove invaluable. From a young age, Martha was known for her intelligence, charm, and strong will. Though life for women in the 18th century was largely confined to domestic duties, she was determined to make a difference in her world. Chapter 2. Love and Loss. At the age of 18, Martha married Daniel Park Custis, a wealthy plantation owner nearly 20 years her senior. Their marriage was one of prosperity and love, and together they had 4 children. Life seemed perfect, but fate had different plans. Within a few years, 2 of their children died at a young age, leaving Martha heartbroken. Despite her grief, she continued to be a devoted wife and mother. Then, tragedy struck again. In 1757, Daniel Custis died suddenly, leaving Martha widowed at just 26. With 2 surviving children and a vast estate to manage, she found herself in a difficult position. But instead of succumbing to despair, Martha took control of the plantation's operations, proving herself a capable and intelligent woman in a society that often underestimated women's abilities. Chapter 3. A New Beginning with George Washington. In 1758, Martha met George Washington, a young and ambitious military officer. The two quickly developed a strong bond, and by January 1759, they were married. Their union was one of mutual respect and admiration. Though Martha brought great wealth into the marriage, she saw in George a man of integrity and strength. Together, they settled at Mount Vernon, George's plantation, where they built a life filled with love, family, and duty. Though Martha and George had no children of their own, she remained devoted to her 2 surviving Custis children. She embraced her role as the Lady of Mount Vernon, overseeing household operations and managing social affairs with grace. Chapter 4. The Revolutionary War Years. In 1775, the American colonies found themselves on the brink of war with Britain. When George Washington was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, Martha's life changed forever. Rather than staying behind in comfort, Martha chose to support her husband and the soldiers. She spent winters at military camps, enduring harsh conditions to care for wounded soldiers, sew clothing, and provide comfort to weary troops. Her presence lifted morale, and soldiers came to respect her as a motherly figure. At Valley Forge, where the army suffered through a brutal winter, Martha worked tirelessly. She helped nurse the sick, wrote letters for soldiers who couldn't write, and managed supplies. Her bravery and dedication earned her the admiration of many, and even George Washington himself acknowledged her unwavering support. Chapter 5. The First Lady of a New Nation. After years of war, the American colonies finally won their independence. In 1789, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of the United States. Though Martha never sought political power, she became the first First Lady, a role that would define the future of American women in leadership. Martha established traditions that first ladies would follow for centuries. She hosted elegant dinners, managed social gatherings, and set a precedent for the dignity and grace expected of a president's wife. Despite her high status, Martha longed for the quiet life at Mount Vernon. The constant public attention was exhausting, and she missed the simplicity of home. Yet, she understood her duty and carried it out with dedication. Chapter 6. The Final Years. After George Washington's presidency ended in 1797, the couple finally returned to Mount Vernon. They hoped for a peaceful retirement, but in 1799, George Washington fell ill and passed away. Martha was devastated. She had lost not only her husband, but also her closest friend and partner. Heartbroken, she withdrew from public life. She spent her remaining years at Mount Vernon, reflecting on the extraordinary journey she had taken, from a young Virginia girl to the First Lady of a nation. On May 22nd, 1802, Martha Washington passed away at the age of 70. She was laid to rest beside her beloved George, leaving behind a legacy of strength, devotion, and resilience. Epilogue. The legacy of Martha Washington. Martha Washington was more than just the wife of the first president. She was a pioneer. She redefined the role of women in leadership, proving that grace and strength could go hand in hand. Her story is one of love, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to her country. Though centuries have passed, her legacy lives on, inspiring generations of women to lead with courage and dignity. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next video.